Once, a university professor approached a Zen master, eager for knowledge. The master served him tea, pouring until the cup overflowed. "It's full," the professor said. "Nothing more can fit." The master looked at him and quietly said, "Your mind is like this cup, so full of opinions and judgments. How can I teach you Zen if there is no room to learn?" The professor, humbled, realized that the key to understanding wasn't just in acquiring more knowledge, but in emptying himself of what he thought he knew. It was only then, in the space of humility, that he could truly begin to learn. Later, the wandering Zen master Gudo stopped at a farmhouse, drenched by rain and weary from his travels. The woman who greeted him shared the sorrow of her husband's gambling and drunkenness. Gudo didn't speak of the man's faults. Instead, he meditated quietly and asked for food and wine. When the husband came home drunk, Gudo said nothing. He simply offered the man food and drink. The next morning, Gudo's words were gentle. "Life is too short to waste on things that ruin you." The man sat silently, the truth sinking in. Gudo walked in silence, and the man followed, offering to carry his things. Gudo urged him to return, but the man walked on. A mile passed, then 5, then 10. The man said, "I will follow you for the rest of my life." Gudo did not speak, but in his silence, the man understood. This is the power of Zen. It is not in words, but in stillness, in seeing. To see not what a person is, but what they could become. Onami the wrestler sought Hakuju. He wished to overcome his fear, his doubts. "Become the wave," Hakuju said. Onami meditated through the night. By dawn, he was the wave, unstoppable. The next day, no one could defeat him. He had emptied himself and become one with the ocean. Ryokan gave his clothes to the thief. The thief fled. Ryokan sat naked under the moon, thinking, "Poor fellow, I wish I could give him this beautiful moon." The lesson was not in the clothes, but in the mind that let go of everything. Hoshin spoke to his disciples. "I won't be here next year. Treat me well this year." They laughed, but when the year passed, Hoshin was gone. He said, "I came from brilliance, and I returned to brilliance." His words echoed like a lion's roar. Shunkai burned the temple, then found peace in the Buddha's name. In death, her beauty and sorrow were remembered. Zen is not in the calm or the chaos. It is in the balance. Tanzan, the philosopher, believed that breaking the rules didn't make you less human. It could make you more Buddha than you ever realized. Life, in his view, isn't meant to be lived according to rigid expectations. Sometimes it's in the moments of rebellion, in the moments of breaking things open, that we find the truest answers. Zen is not about neatness or perfection. It's about understanding when to let go and when to rise against the tide like a powerful wave. Shoen's life was a story of unconventionality. He was mocked by others for living outside of the traditional monk's path. But when his mother decided to join him in studying Zen, she rejected the world's judgment and embraced a life of peace and wisdom. Together they played their music under the moon, creating sounds that touched the hearts of those who heard it. But the world, as it often does, whispered and laughed when Shoen visited the house of a woman. They didn't understand that his visit wasn't about the world's judgment. It was about his own truth. Sometimes the world won't understand the path you walk, but as long as it's your truth, it's the right one. Shoen's calm reaction to his mother's death is a powerful reminder of the peace that comes from living without regret. In a world where we are so often swept up in drama, Shoen's simple, unbothered nature teaches us the strength of acceptance. His life wasn't about avoiding the difficult moments. It was about facing them with grace. And when it came time for him to leave this world, he did so with the same calm, writing a poem that captured the natural rhythm of life, a rhythm he had mastered. Gassan's dialogue with the university student demonstrates that wisdom knows no boundaries. The teachings of Zen and the wisdom of other traditions are not separate. They are all reflections of the same truth. When we look beyond labels, we begin to see the universal wisdom that connects us all. Buddha's parable reminds us that life will always present challenges, but even in those moments, we have the power to find beauty. Even as the vine we cling to frays, there is still the strawberry to taste, the sweetness to savor. Zen teaches us to embrace life in all its messiness and to find the sweetness even when things seem bleak. The story of Master Kosen and his pupil at Obaku Temple is a reminder that perfection often comes when we stop pushing for it. Kosen's masterpiece wasn't the result of striving, but of releasing attachment to the outcome. It shows us that sometimes, when we stop forcing things, the universe provides us with what we need, effortlessly. Jian's mother understood this deep truth. Her advice to stop lecturing and retreat into silence mirrors Zen's call to listen. Information is endless, but wisdom arises in moments of quiet. We don't need to constantly chase knowledge. Sometimes, the most powerful thing we can do is stop and be still. Toyo's journey toward understanding the sound of one hand teaches us an important lesson. Answers don't always come immediately. Sometimes, the answers we seek are not things to be found, but realizations to be uncovered. Zen helps us understand that the answers are already inside us. They just need the right conditions to be revealed. Soyan Shakun's teachings were simple yet profound, a guide to living fully in each moment. His rules were not mere instructions, but a call to embrace life as it comes. Meditate before dressing, he said, because every moment is sacred. Sleep as if you've entered your last sleep, because the awareness of our own impermanence opens the door to wisdom. Leave your bed like an old pair of shoes, for attachment to anything, even comfort, will hold us back. Consider the woman who sat on her funeral pyre, daring the flames to consume her. Her final words, "Only a fool would care," spoke to the Zen truth that attachment to the body, to the self, is the true suffering. She faced death with neither fear nor regret, embracing the moment completely. And the farmer who worried that the merit of the sutras for his wife might be stolen by others teaches us the same lesson. The priest, calm and patient, reminds him that true merit is not selfish, but shared. Zen's wisdom tells us that true peace comes when we let go of the ego, the boundaries between me and them. The pursuit of Zen is not without its trials. Suiwo's lesson to his pupil, harsh though it may seem, reminds us that spiritual progress is not always a gentle path. When the Zen master tells his pupil, "Meditate for 3 more days, and if you don't get it, you might as well kill yourself," we see a reality of Zen that challenges us to face the depths of our own limitations. Sometimes, only the sharpness of a harsh truth can break through the thick walls of our self-doubt. The story of the 2 monks further illustrates Zen's subtleties. The elder monk's wisdom was not in the words spoken, but in the subtlety of the gestures made. Yet the younger monk, misunderstanding, allowed his personal insecurities to cloud his judgment. Here, we see how easily wisdom can be distorted when we hold too tightly to our own interpretations and egos. These stories show that Zen is not simply about perfect wisdom or perfect understanding. It is a path of learning to see beyond our own biases, prejudices, and insecurities. In a world where so many of us are struggling to be understood, Master Benzan's authenticity is a reminder of the power of simplicity. The blind man, with his extraordinary ability to hear what others don't, could detect no hidden tones in Benzan's voice. He heard pure sincerity, something rare, something to aspire to. In a society that often demands we put on facades, this story challenges us to embrace our true selves, to speak and live with unshakable authenticity. Mokusen Hiki's lesson about the fist and the open hand teaches us that balance is everything. If we hold too tightly to our possessions or our beliefs, we risk becoming rigid and inflexible. If we let go too easily, we lose our form and nothing has value. The key is to find that middle ground where we hold on just enough to be strong, but not so much that we break. Finally, Mokugen's challenge to his disciples shows us that understanding doesn't always come from grand speeches or complicated rituals. Sometimes it's the smallest, most subtle actions that reveal the most. Incho's simple shift of the cup was a demonstration that the most profound understanding often comes when we are silent and present. The Zen path is all about finding clarity in the quiet, the simple actions that speak louder than words. Subhuti, sitting under that tree, exemplified this. He didn't need to explain or prove anything about emptiness. His mere presence, his state of being, allowed the universe to respond. The gods, unsure of what had occurred, could only hear silence, and in that silence, the truth was revealed. The flowers that fell around him weren't a gift, they were nature's response to his inner peace. Emptiness, as Subhuti showed, doesn't need to be taught. It simply is. And then there's Gisho. For 13 long years, she battled with the teachings of Master Inzan. The road wasn't easy, and at times, it seemed as if the clarity she sought would never be found. But it was in those moments of harsh teachings, the ones that pushed her to the limit, that her mind finally cracked open. In that moment of enlightenment, her transformation was complete. Gisho didn't just become enlightened. She became a force in the Zen world, teaching 200 nuns and leaving behind a legacy that spoke louder than any teaching could. Sometimes, it's the smallest moments that set us on the path to greatness. Soyen Shaku's lesson came when he was just 12, a boy in the heat of summer, resting under a tree. His master stepped over him, and that was the moment Soyen made a vow: no more idle naps. That small, seemingly insignificant act of stepping over him was the catalyst that launched him on a lifetime of self-discipline and growth. It was a moment of clarity. If we want to succeed, we must stay aware, engaged, and present in every moment. Joshua's life is a testament to the power of never giving up. Starting his Zen study at 60, he didn't just stop there. He became a teacher by 80 and kept teaching for another 40 years until he was 120. His teachings were simple, but filled with deep wisdom. His advice, throw it out, when there's nothing in the mind, cuts through the clutter of modern life. We don't need to complicate things. We just need to act when the time comes. Mamiya's story is a powerful reminder that sometimes the answer isn't in trying harder, but in surrendering to the lesson. His teacher's tough words challenged him to stop pretending and start living the truth. It's only by fully embracing the present moment, free of pretense, that we can truly understand the lessons we seek. Tosui, after years of teaching, abandoned his lectures and lived in the company of beggars, teaching that wisdom is found not in words, but in actions. A disciple, eager to follow, spent a day as a beggar and learned the depth of Tosui's life. When asked to take sustenance from the body of a dead beggar, the disciple faltered. Tosui's lesson was clear. Zen demands not just physical endurance, but mental liberation from attachment and judgment. Banzan too showed the path of true compassion. When others sought to cast out the thief from their midst, Banzan recognized the potential for transformation. Rather than judging, he saw the thief's ignorance as an opportunity for growth. Zen teaches us not to turn away from those in need, but to see beyond their flaws and offer the teaching that may awaken them to their own nature. Shinken, in his bluntness, reminded his students that enlightenment is not found in the outer world of things, but within one's own being. Did you ever consider that? Was the question that cut through the distractions and illusions. Zen is about direct experience, not theoretical knowledge. Finally, Rhiannon, in her youth and beauty, discovered the impermanence of life through the death of the Empress. Her shift from a life of luxury to the simplicity of Zen reflects the core teaching of all Zen masters. All things are transient. In the face of death and change, she turned inward, seeking enlightenment, not in wealth or power, but in the moment of pure being. What we're talking about here is a radical shift in how we view wisdom. These stories aren't just relics of the past, they are lessons for today's world. We live in a culture obsessed with speed and efficiency, but wisdom doesn't work that way. True growth takes time, and often it requires facing our struggles head-on. These figures remind us that greatness comes not in the moments of ease, but in the willingness to dive into life's messiness and find meaning beneath the surface. Take Rhiannon's story, for example. Born into privilege and beauty, she could have had everything the world had to offer, but she chose something much deeper. Her transformation wasn't just a shift in perspective, it was physical. Rejected by Zen masters because of her beauty, she took extreme action, burning her own face to rid herself of what they considered a distraction. It's the kind of commitment that forces us to ask ourselves, what are we willing to sacrifice for our own growth? Rhiannon's ultimate lesson came in her final moments when she wrote a poem blending beauty and truth, reminding us that enlightenment isn't about fleeing the world. It's about embracing its struggles with open arms. Zen isn't just about sitting in silence. It's about applying profound lessons in real-world situations. Benkei was a master who didn't just talk about humility. He lived it. By choosing to eat the same food as the poorest of his followers, he made a powerful statement that we are all equal. In a world that often seems divided by status, wealth, and power, Zen calls us to transcend these illusions and recognize the inherent equality in everyone we meet. Haken, too, showed us that true strength isn't about aggression. It's about clarity of mind. When a warrior threatened him with a sword, Haken didn't fight back. Instead, he used his words to disarm the anger, teaching us that the best way to handle conflict is often not through confrontation, but through truth. The judge's story with the stone Buddha shows us how Zen can turn any situation on its head. What seemed like a ridiculous case revealed the true thief through an unexpected turn of events. Zen is about seeing the world differently, finding solutions where others see none. And when Gassan speaks of soldiers in the army of humanity, he reminds us that the real battle isn't fought with weapons. It's fought with compassion, understanding, and the desire to serve the greater good. Zenkai's story is nothing short of transformative. From the heights of samurai privilege to the depths of guilt and despair, Zenkai's life took a drastic turn after a moment of passion turned into a murder. But rather than be defined by his sin, Zenkai made a choice to change. He took responsibility for his actions, not by seeking forgiveness from others, but by dedicating himself to something greater than himself. For 30 years, Zenkai worked tirelessly, digging a tunnel that would save others from the same fate he had once narrowly escaped. This wasn't just a physical act, it was a journey of self-redemption. The tunnel itself became a testament to the power of perseverance and the possibility of change. When the son of his victim arrived, seeking revenge, Zenkai was ready to face his fate. But the real miracle wasn't in the offer of his life. It was in the young man's transformation. Through their shared work, the vengeance that once drove him faded, replaced by understanding. This story shows us that redemption isn't something we receive from others. It's something we earn through our actions and our willingness to change. Zenkai's story begins in the same way as many do, with a mistake. A single moment of passion led to a crime that would forever alter the course of his life. But Zenkai didn't run from his sin. He dug. With every shovelful of dirt, he worked to create something that would outlast his regret. His tunnel, stretching through the mountain, wasn't just a path for others. It was a path for his own redemption. The young man who came to seek vengeance might have been Zenkai's judge, but in the end, he too was transformed. Through shared labor, through years of digging together, the seed of forgiveness was planted. Zenkai didn't need to die to redeem himself. He needed to live, to keep moving forward, to prove that change is possible, even when the past seems impossible to outrun. Redemption is a slow and often painful process, but it is a process that can change everything. These Zen stories are powerful lessons about the strength that comes from accepting our human nature, flaws and all. The tale of the four friends shows that no matter how determined we are, life will always challenge us. It's not about achieving perfection, but learning how to deal with our limitations and recognize that we're all just human. When we fail, it doesn't mean we've lost. It means we're learning. Bankei's lesson on temper teaches us that we are not our emotions. They don't define us, and they don't have control over us unless we allow it. Hogan's response about the stone reminds us not to get caught up in abstract thinking. Sometimes, we need to stop analyzing and start acting. Sengai's message to the rich man is a reminder that true prosperity lies not in avoiding pain, but in accepting that pain is a natural part of the journey. Embrace it, learn from it, and keep moving forward. In Nagasaki, there was a woman named Keimei, whose incense burners were said to be some of the finest in the land. But one day, after completing a burner for the mayor, Keimei did something extraordinary. She destroyed it. It wasn't because it wasn't beautiful. It was. But in her eyes, it wasn't perfect, not in the way she felt it needed to be. She crafted it for others, but true perfection could only exist in her own heart. It was a moment of raw self-awareness where Kame realized that in creating something for others, she had sacrificed the essence of her own intention. Then there was Bankei, who, faced with a boastful priest claiming miraculous powers, responded with a smile and a touch of humor. "Maybe your fox can perform that trick," Bankei quipped. "But for me, when I'm hungry, I eat. When I'm thirsty, I drink." No showmanship, no false displays of power, just the simple truth that life itself is a miracle when lived honestly. These Zen masters didn't seek grandeur or the admiration of others. Their wisdom was not in complexity, but in embracing the ordinary. Whether it was Kamei's act of destroying her perfect creation, or Bankei's humble words to a prideful priest, these stories teach us that the real wisdom of life lies in simplicity, in letting go of expectations, and in accepting the imperfection of it all. Yamaoka stood in the quiet room, staring at Dokwan after the Zen master's question. Where did that anger come from? The silence stretched on. Yamaoka had been so sure of his understanding of Zen. He thought anger no longer had a hold on him, but in that moment, it became clear. The anger wasn't caused by emptiness or transcendence. It came from his own attachment to the idea of having transcended it all. Elsewhere, an elderly teacher worked tirelessly, his students trying to show their respect by hiding his tools. But the next day, when they returned the tools, he ate and worked as if nothing had happened. "No work, no food," he said. His words were simple, but they carried the weight of a lifetime's teaching. Without discipline, nothing else could follow. This simple phrase held a deeper truth about the importance of structure in life. One day, young Ikkyu, anxious after breaking his teacher's prized teacup, asked a deep question. Why do people have to die? His teacher's reply was simple. Because it's natural. Everything dies in its time. Holding the broken teacup, Ikkyu realized something profound. His mistake was part of the natural flow, just as life and death are. In that moment, the pieces of the cup symbolized the impermanence of all things, and his understanding of life deepened. Geitan, a Zen master during the Tokugawa era, shared his insights on discipleship. There are 3 types of disciples, he said: those who teach, those who maintain, and those who endure. But it was the enduring ones, the ones who persevered through pain and hardship, that grew the most. In Zen, true growth is found in perseverance, not in avoiding difficulty. Tangen had always been eager to explore beyond the teachings of his Zen master, Sengai. Each time he asked, Sengai responded with a swift smack to the head, as if to say, "You're not ready for what lies outside." Finally, in a moment of frustration, Tangen turned to his older brother, asking him to intervene. Sengai, ever wise, responded, "When you return, I won't be able to reprimand you anymore. You'll be enlightened." In that moment, Tangen realized that sometimes the lessons we need aren't the ones we seek. They come in forms we don't expect, like a painful reminder to stay present and true to our path. Matajuro's journey as a swordsman followed a similar course. His father, a renowned swordsman, doubted his son's potential, prompting Matajuro to seek out Bonzo, a revered teacher. But Bonzo wasn't quick to please. 10 years? 30 years? He asked, unwilling to be rushed. Matajuro, frustrated by the wait, was pushed to his limits, until Bonzo told him, 70 years. It wasn't just about swordsmanship. It was about patience, humility, and the acceptance of time as a necessary companion on the road to mastery. The training was grueling. No swords, no talk of technique, just the sweat and toil of everyday life. It wasn't until the day Bonzo struck him with a wooden sword that Matajuro understood. True mastery isn't about controlling the sword. It's about learning to respond to life's unpredictability. Through years of relentless challenge, Matajuro became the greatest swordsman in the land, not because he was the fastest or the strongest, but because he learned to embrace the hard lessons of the journey. The Zen masters were never ones to follow the conventional rules. Instead, they broke them, turning tradition on its head and teaching through actions that were as unexpected as they were profound. They didn't just teach their students in a classroom or lecture hall. They taught through real, raw experiences that forced students to face themselves. From bamboo smacks to hidden tools, their methods were designed to shake people awake, to strip away the layers of comfort and ego, and reveal the truth that was often hiding beneath the surface. One such lesson was when Sengai caught one of his students sneaking out at night. The student thought he had outsmarted his teacher, scaling the temple wall with a stool. But when he returned, he was surprised to find Sengai standing in the spot where the stool had been. Without a word, the student stepped right onto his master's head in an awkward, accidental move. Sengai, with a cool smile, remarked, "It's chilly out. Be careful not to catch cold." That simple, calm response hit the student harder than any punishment could have. The lesson was clear. There's no escaping your actions, and sometimes the consequences come in the most unexpected ways. Then, there's the letter from Vasui to a dying disciple, urging him to understand the true nature of his mind. "Your mind isn't born, so it can never die," Vasui wrote. In those words, the disciple found peace. The end of his physical existence was not a tragedy. It was a return to the endless, boundless nature of life itself. Just like a snowflake that melts into the air, life's end is simply a return to the vastness from which it came. Zen teaches us that life and death are not separate. They are part of a continuous, ever-changing whole. We often think of Zen as something abstract, hard to grasp. But these stories show us that the heart of Zen is found in the simple, often overlooked moments of life. Take Nissan's scolding of the student for wasting water. It wasn't just about being frugal. It was about being mindful, about recognizing the impact of every action, no matter how small. When the student learned to appreciate the value of even a drop of water, he transformed. He didn't just change his behavior, he changed his name, embodying the very lesson that no act is too insignificant to matter. Then there's Tosui, who gave up everything to live humbly under a bridge, making vinegar instead of begging for food. His message wasn't about rejecting the world. It was about accepting life as it is, without the need for grandeur. His sign for Buddha was a statement. You're welcome to stay, but don't expect me to ask for rebirth in your paradise. Tosui lived Zen by embodying it in the most humble of ways, showing us that enlightenment doesn't come from seeking anything beyond the present moment. Shochi's silence was another lesson in the power of simplicity. He didn't need to say anything to teach. His life was a lesson in meditation, in quiet presence. And when he passed, it was not the bells or sutras that marked his departure, but the understanding of those who truly knew him. These Zen stories remind us that the path to wisdom isn't about chasing perfection. It's about embracing the present, learning from mistakes, and finding the extraordinary in the everyday.